This is Mark Strassman, reporter with California Politics Today and the Campaign to Pass AB 2987 channel on the online broadcasting service. We're about to speak to Eric Brown at Charter Communications in Long Beach. Welcome to California Politics Today.
Thank you.
And if you speak up louder, everyone will be able to hear you.
Okay.
Tell us what your position is at Charter Communications and what Charter Communications' place is in the constellation of cable television companies.
Well, sure. I am the Senior Vice President of Operations for Charter Communications for the Western Division, which means I oversee Charter's operations in 6 Western states, including California. And I'm based and live out of Long Beach, California. Charter Communications is the 4th largest cable operator in the United States with about 6 million customers. Here in California, we have roughly 700,000 customers, and we provide traditional cable television service, which most people think of cable companies for, but also high-speed internet services through our cable modems. And here recently, in the last 6 months, we've launched telephone service, residential telephone service.
Voice over IP, or differently? Or
it is a combination hybrid voice over IP and switched telephone system.
Okay. Now, you're also the chairman of the board of the California Cable and Telecommunications Association?
That is correct.
And are you speaking today as for Charter or for the CCTA or both, or yourself, or who are you representing right now?
I speak today for both, the CCTA as well as Charter.
Okay. What is the position of the California Cable and Telecommunications Association on pending legislation AB 2987, the Digital Infrastructure and Cable Competition Act of 2006?
Our position is oppose unless amended. We clearly understand that there's a impetus in the legislature for franchise reform here in the state of California, and an urgency around seeing another competitor or other competitors allowed to enter the market. We just feel that if that's going to happen, it should happen on a fair and equitable basis for all of the providers. And our 2 big issues are making sure that the new entrants are required to comply with the same requirements that cable operators have to comply with.
And what are those principal requirements that cable franchise incumbents need to comply with now?
Well, that's unclear. I guess our point is we don't have a problem with the existing regulatory structure, which, as you know, requires our providers to get franchises generally from local municipalities. However, if there's going to be a change, our position is we should be allowed to participate with the same rules or requirements that any new entrant would be bound by. And the current legislation is currently written does not provide for that.
Now, I understand that yesterday, when this bill was being considered by the Assembly Appropriations Committee, an amendment was offered to allow cable incumbents to abrogate their contracts with municipalities and assume the rights and responsibilities under AB 2987. Were you involved in the preparation and the presentation and the effort to get that added to the bill?
We've been in discussions. CCTA has been in discussions with the leadership of the Assembly. I'm probably not as up to speed on what happened yesterday as you are. My understanding is that the current legislation as written still would not allow us to participate in the same rules at the time that the legislation would be enacted. And so that's one of our issues, is to whatever changes are made, let's make sure that government isn't providing a more favorable or less costly paradigm to one set of providers over the other. And in addition, we have concerns over fair and equitable build-out.
Okay, talk about that.
There the issue is both Verizon and AT&T have publicly stated that their intent is to provide their wired either broadband or video service to the most upscale neighborhoods. That is their focus. And we want to make sure that just as we were required to build out the entire franchise areas in the municipalities we serve, that any new entrant would be subject to the same kinds of requirements and not allowed to just self-select and cherry-pick the better neighborhoods to build in, as opposed to a fair cross-section of the communities.
I interviewed Lloyd Levine, the chairman of the Assembly Utilities and Commerce Committee, earlier today, and he said that this question is still up for discussion, the language that will finally be in the bill.
Right.
How would you characterize or describe the build-out provisions, the anti-redlining provisions that the cable franchisees now operate under,
right,
and talk about whether that language could be translated directly into AB 2987?
Sure. Well, the language that we currently operate under does vary by community, but in general, there is a specific time frame within which we're required to complete our build of a franchise area or city or municipality. And generally, there are benchmark metrics that allow the municipality to monitor whether or not we're making satisfactory progress towards the ultimate build-out. And so, for instance, it's pretty typical to see in our franchise agreements around the state a requirement to complete the build-out in 5 to 7 years. And if it's a 5-year build-out, for instance, that we might be required to, on an annual basis, complete 20%. Those kinds of things.
No, so there are specific build-out requirements in each municipality. Two things to talk about. The phone companies say they need AB 2987 because it's a laborious, lengthy, and enervating process to negotiate with each of the cities.
Right.
Is this part of the what they're referring to in the need to work out these specifics? And more generally, then, could that process be carried over to the state on an average basis, or general parameters, or how would you like to see the anti-redlining provisions included in AB 2987?
Sorry about that. Let's see if it rings again.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. You want me to just keep going?
Yeah, just keep going. If you...
Well, with regards to the build-out requirements that exist currently, it's kind of hard to understand, for us to understand how companies such as Verizon and AT&T, each of whom rival our entire industry in terms of their market capitalization and their size, find it difficult or laborious to comply with the same requirements that our industry has been required to do for decades. We have seen instances where there have been veiled or in some cases open threats to municipalities that, hey, if you don't give us what we want, we just won't bring our services to your community.
These are threats by whom?
By AT&T and Verizon.
Right.
The Walnut Creek case is a classic example of actual litigation that was filed to try to resolve this kind of dispute. But be that as it may, I think the issue here is, yes, there are a series of requirements that have been placed on cable operators or on video providers under the current regulatory structure that could be argued are, in some cases, overly laborious or costly. You'd have to talk to the Verizon and AT&T folks to find out specifically what they're talking about. But with regards to build-out, I think it's a pretty simple concept to say, look, if I live on the east side of Long Beach in El Dorado Park Estates, one of the more affluent communities, is it fair that my community will be the only one to see Verizon in terms of its build-out plans, while the folks on the west side of Long Beach over by the 710 freeway, who arguably could benefit most from the proposed virtues of competition, lower pricing and the like, will not be served. And again, each company publicly, representatives of each company have publicly stated that their intent is to go to the best neighborhoods and serve those communities only. That's the issue that, from a business perspective and a level playing field perspective, our industry believes everyone should have the same requirements.
There's been sort of some confusing and conflicting statements about that. Verizon in particular has said several times to me on camera that it's in their business interest to go to densely populated areas where there are a lot of low-income people who like to watch a lot of television, and they want to offer the services there. There's no reason why they wouldn't. On the other hand, I've also been hearing stories about how municipalities may have forced companies, cable companies, to serve very sparsely populated areas full of rich people, because the per mile the subscriber per mile
Right.
factor is not so great,
Right.
and so I'm wondering whether market forces are enough or whether regulation is necessary, and if so, what you think ought to be the case.
I think some form of regulatory oversight with teeth in it is what we really need to see. I don't think it's enough to just say let market forces decide, because again, you're talking about use of the public rights of way, and I think there is an implicit requirement to make sure that if that's going to be done, that all sectors of the public are equally served. That's the paradigm under which we built out our systems, and to create a new paradigm that does not require any operator to treat all communities fairly just seems inappropriate.
Okay. Now, as the bill stands now, it's my understanding satellite service delivered by Dish Network from AT&T
Right.
Would be enough to satisfy the anti-redlining provisions in the bill.
That's correct.
And people can't get high-speed two-way internet connections over satellite,
Right.
and therefore would be disadvantaged if that was enough to exempt them from any anti-redlining provisions. What's your take on that, and is that something you're working on changing in the legislation?
Well, you are correct that the current legislation language does not address the issue of the home zone product that AT&T offers, where it's a combination of direct broadcast satellite video along with their phone product. Our view is, one of the issues involved here is keeping the cities whole on the revenues that they currently receive from franchise fee payments from the incumbent providers. When you look at the impact of Home Zone, which is a satellite delivered product, it's hard
To deliver the video.
to deliver the video.
And it's video services only that incur the
Franchise fee.
5% or less franchise fee.
That's correct.
Right.
It's hard to understand how cities are going to be kept whole if you're now empowering a new entrant with an increased ability to go in and market a service that actually reduces the franchise fee footprint that cities earn their revenue.
Although, am I missing something? Can't Dish Network and AT&T put satellite dishes in without AB 2987 or franchising or anything?
They certainly could, I think it begs the question, okay, is this a circuitous argument? And if you're really so intent on providing a broadband network, state-of-the-art network, why wouldn't you do that to the entire community as opposed to being able to self-select?
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the technology here, in particular cable,
Yes.
and its ability to compete on a technical level
Sure.
with the fiber optic FiOS system that Verizon wants to build out, says it wants to build out, and the home zone and the cable and the fiber optic to the neighborhood with coax to the last 100 yards that AT&T calls Project Lightspeed.
Right.
Well, how do those stack up against each other? Those three compare technically.
Well, I think that, first of all, there's a lot of rhetoric being thrown around by some of the telephone companies that cable systems are antiquated and not up to speed. Listen, here in Southern California, as an example, all of the charter communications cable systems are state-of-the-art fiber optic hybrid fiber networks, and they allow us not only the ability today to provide classic cable service, video service, but high-speed data services. We're providing commercial data services, so and that's one of our fastest growing areas of our business. Services like video on demand, high-definition television, and as I mentioned earlier, residential telephone service. So what we have in place today, which is a result of over $10 billion of investment by the industry in the state of California, is really a state-of-the-art plant that will literally deliver virtually everything that these new systems are designed to deliver as well.
Okay. Has the consideration of AB 2987 yet, at this point, affected your operations, your pricing? Have you been lowering your prices in order to preempt losing subscribers to these operations? Or do you figure it's going to take so long for them to build out, even if it does pass, that you haven't gotten around to doing that yet?
Well, you know, I think that the reality is we're in a competitive marketplace today. We're competing with the telephone companies every single day in the high-speed internet. They call it DSL, we call it cable modem market. We're competing every single day as we speak with the direct broadcast satellite providers, whether it's DirecTV or EchoStar. And in many communities, Sacramento's a good example, there are indeed hardwired video and broadband providers also. So I think the message is, yeah, we've learned in recent years that we have to learn how to compete. Pricing is one of the ways that we do that, but quite frankly, just as important we're seeing is our ability to improve the quality of the services we offer, and that includes our ability to answer the phones on time, training, and the quality of the folks that either visit your home or deal with you when you're on the phone. That's a very real part of the value of the services we provide to you. So we're taking all of those things into account. We're in a competitive environment today. Yes, it will become increasingly competitive, and I think that'll be good for Californians as we move forward. Again, we just want to make sure that whatever regulatory paradigm is in place applies equally to everybody.
Compare the cultural assumptions and the reality of the reputations that phone companies have and cable companies have for customer service and reliability.
Well, you know, we've done a lot of research on that here in the state of California. As we prepared to enter the phone market, we wanted to understand how most customers or how most citizens perceive Verizon or AT&T versus Charter. And it's a mixed bag, to be honest with you. There are some communities where we're on an even keel with them. There are other communities where we have a better perception based on some very hard work we've done to improve the quality of our services over the years. And quite frankly, there's some other communities where maybe the customer experience hasn't been as good as it should have been, and we're working very hard to make sure that in those communities we bring those up to speed. I think a very interesting indicator, though, is where we have launched telephone service, which was for us initially in the Inland Empire, more recently here in LA County. The take rates have been phenomenal, and we're seeing somewhere in the neighborhood of 1% of our footprint, 1% of the homes we pass with our cable plant sign up for those services every month. Now, they wouldn't be doing that, I would argue, if the perceptions of Charter or of the industry were tremendously negative versus the Verizon and AT&T options that they have.
Verizon and AT&T have done everything they can to tell people that cable rates are going up, up, and up. How much are cable rates for video services changed in the last 5 years?
You know, again, it varies by community. I can tell you that what they fail to communicate to the public is the value of the services. I mean, you look at the pricing, you look at what do you get for the pricing. And in most of our communities in Southern California, Charter is an example, we're providing digital cable service, which includes video on demand. Very often there's over 1,000 hours of free on-demand programming that people can order when they want to see without having to pay anything for it. Our digital lineup ranges from 120 to 300 channels. It's very different than 10 years ago when the average cable system might have had 40 to 62 channels.
So you're willing to say rates have gone up, but you're getting more. You're getting more.
Right, we're providing more.
Okay, I'd like to talk about the politics of this. The bill passed the Appropriations Committee in the Assembly yesterday. It's scheduled for a floor vote next Thursday or so on the Assembly floor. What are your expectations about your ability to get the changes that you want made before that happens or after that happens?
We're very hopeful that through continuing to work with our leaders in the Assembly and that we can get the kinds of fairness and balance brought to the bill that we really need to see in terms of level playing field. Let's treat like services alike. We understand that and that the bill was sponsored by the Speaker, and so we were unlikely to get it much changed in committee before it passed out. We were able to get some revisions made, and we're looking forward to continuing the dialogue so that we can end up with something that everybody in California should support.
Why is it essentially that the speaker is essentially carrying a telephone company bill rather than a cable company bill?
You know, you'd have to ask the speaker that. I don't know. There's a lot of conjecture, but yeah, I can't answer that.
Okay. I'd like you to address the situation in the city of Los Angeles. It's my understanding that once the FCC, the Adelphia Bankruptcy Court, and everybody else has shuffled everything around, 98% of the service in Los Angeles City will be provided by Time Warner and 2% by Charter. Is that about right?
That's right.
And has the Charter franchise with the city of Los Angeles expired yet?
No.
When's it due to expire?
You know, offhand, I don't really know.
Okay, because the other ones anyway have expired in 2002, been renewed for 2 years, and then for 1 year, extended,
right.
And they all expired in August of 2005. And I've been asking everyone about this, and apparently under existing law, with the passage of AB 2987, the Time Warner, which will be the 98% provider in the city of Los Angeles, will be eligible the day the bill becomes law in 2007 in January to apply for a state-issued authorization, and it won't have to abrogate any contract with the city of Los Angeles. It doesn't have one,
right.
And it'll be able to proceed and get all the advantages that the phone companies want to have under this bill. Is that an irony? Does it affect the overall posture of the cable companies, or is it more or less an isolated anomaly of the whole situation?
I don't think it changes the position of the cable industry or of CCTA. Clearly Los Angeles is a major part of the state of California in terms of number of subscribers and folks affected, but it still doesn't change the fact that we have an opportunity here to kind of rewrite the regulatory paradigm in the state to fairly address both the technological as well as the competitive environments that we'd all like to see. And so making sure we treat like services alike, whether or not there's an existing franchise agreement in place in a given community, I think is key in terms of a long-term balanced view of how things should proceed.
Okay. Now, is it right to say that as it's now constituted, you're against the bill, but if it passes, you want to get in on the same paradigm that the telephone companies do?
That's correct.
And would you consider litigation to achieve that goal?
You know, in other states, Texas and other states, the industry, depending on the outcome of the bill, has explored those options. What will happen in California is hard to say. Okay.
Talking in more general terms about how you see the telecom environment in 3 to 5 years, in terms of services provided, who's going to do it, the importance of broadband, and the general situation in telecom in that time period.
Well, I think it's a fascinating time to be in the industry because as we've been discussing, telephone companies are putting themselves in position to offer video service as well as high-speed internet services, which they're currently offering, and cable operators are doing the same, where we've traditionally dealt in the video business and more recently in the high-speed internet business successfully. We're now endeavoring to compete in the telephone business, and so I think this will mean that the strongest players will survive. I think this means that we'll have to continue to compete with the other providers for your business, and I think that's good for customers, and I think frankly it's good for our industry as well in terms of making sure we're all healthy and lean and providing the value of services that will keep our businesses viable for a long time to come.
Say a little bit about what will happen if AB 2987 passes in terms of public access programming, in terms of PEG channels generally, in terms of INET and the other requirements that incumbent franchisees need to deliver now, and the administrative structure that whether the phone companies would need to create their own public access studios, or whether they'd pay you, or whether there'd be a fund that everyone would pay into. What do you see as the situation in that area?
Well, you're raising some good points because the devil is in the details in terms of some of the administrative details of things like public access. So let's take the bill as it's currently structured provides, I think, up to 3 public educational government access channels in a community. And for a lot of communities in California, that's fine because they're either getting 3 or less channels today. But there are a lot of others, quite frankly, that have more. And so right here in Long Beach is a good example. I think there are a total of 6 today. So in addition to the government access, we have public access. We have the Long Beach City College channel. We have educational access for Long Beach State. The Long Beach Unified School District has one, has a channel, and the library has a channel. So if you're a resident of Long Beach and a constituent of one of those groups, what happens the day you wake up and you find out that now the providers only have to provide 3, and which 3 do we provide? Who decides that?
Well, all of these decisions about scarcity ignore, in a way, the new technologies. I'm producing this interview right now with a camera the size of a smaller than a deck of cards.
Right.
It's going to go on the internet. We don't have to worry about. We're creating a channel all about AB 2987.
Right.
There's a infinite number of channels that can be put on the internet, and I'm wondering whether it would be interesting and worthwhile to have more consideration of taking consideration some of these new technologies and coming up with better ways of administering things like public access and giving more community members cameras like this and a little bit of help in getting the hardware and software to do the editing and putting it on web channels and serving the goal of the public access movement through more advanced technologies.
See, and I agree with you, and that's, I think, a classic example of the peril involved in crafting legislation that locks you into a paradigm where technology or market forces could make that paradigm obsolete by the time the ink's dry on the page. You're absolutely right. In this day and age, with the technology that's available, is it really necessary to have a big, expensive public or government access studio when there are far less expensive, more flexible options to get the same thing accomplished, which is to do full motion video and sound to cover topics or issues or events that members of the community would care about and want to see without going through the tremendous and discriminatory, frankly, expense of having studios that all of the providers would have to share costs, and there's an administrative burden and all those.
So whatever happens, you'd like to see more discussion of those options.
Exactly, and I think that again, the unintended consequences of a bill like AB 2987, where in my opinion, we're kind of responding to a request by new entrants to quickly put something together that makes it easier for them to enter the market, may be premature in terms of really thinking through what's the paradigm that's right for this state going forward, that doesn't prejudge one technology against another, that makes the best use of the resources that are and the technologies that are available. And those are the kinds of considerations folks have to think about.
What's your projection of how, if the bill passes this year and goes into effect in January, what's your projection of how long it's going to take AT&T and Verizon to roll it out, and what that means in terms of their argument that it'll take too long to negotiate with each city, and in terms of competition for you? When are you planning on being worried in the next 10 years about competition actually being there?
Well, again, I want to caution you that we feel competition's already here.
Right.
We're every day.
More worried.
Yeah, we're doing, and so to keep you as a customer, or attract you as a customer, the age is already here where we're having to deal with those issues versus the DirecTVs or the Verizons and AT&Ts from a DSL cable modem standpoint. But here's the interesting thing. There are many communities, the argument about how long it's going to take them to get to market. Listen, if they were willing to accept the same terms that our industry has accepted, they could be in business tomorrow. So it's not a matter, I think it's disingenuous to say it's a barrier to entry from a speed to market standpoint. I do think it's a pure play to say we want to lower our cost burden to get into the industry. In that way, I think that's what this is all about. I do think that when you look at their own projections for what they plan to spend in the state, I think they both indicated they plan to spend about $1 billion to build their video platforms out. And if you do the math on their own estimates that they provided to the investment community on $1,000 to $1,200 per passing, you're really talking about a grand total of 400,000 plus households that will be built. It's not very many households in the state of California. So I think it's interesting that we're talking about revamping the whole regulatory paradigm and structure for two companies who are larger than almost my entire industry. And the net result of it is they're planning to get to 400,000 households.
Are you saying it's possible that the state will go through this process and do this, and there won't be that much implementation of it?
I'm saying I think it's the argument that we need you to change the regulatory paradigm so that we can get in the market faster.
Right.
Is a misnomer. That it's going to take them time anyway to do the tremendous infrastructure upgrades that have to happen to wire the state or wire the communities that they want to serve. And I think that's the real long tent in the pole. I think they're using this as an opportunity to try to lower the expense burden on themselves as they enter this new market.
Okay, we talked a little bit about how new technology could change public access. Say, we've got about 2.5 minutes left. Say something about how new technology can be transformative for the core video delivery service of cable companies, because, and what net neutrality says about that, and what the cable industry in California feels about net neutrality, because my channel, which goes over the internet, can go through TiVo and go to set-top boxes and be viewed on big screen TVs just as ESPN can.
Yep.
And I'm wondering whether it's Charter and the industry will end up charging me more than it's going to charge ESPN for the rights to send content through broadband, in addition to whatever relationships you have with them as video providers, and whether those start bleeding into each other, and what that means. And you got about a minute and a half to talk about it.
Sure. The whole net neutrality issue is an interesting one. I think in large part our view is it's a problem in search of, it's a solution in search of a problem. We have no interest as an industry in kind of preventing folks from using broadband to access content. We do have an interest in making sure that the investments we've already put into our broadband networks, again over $10 billion in the state of California, that we're managing those networks in accord with the investment that we put in. So for instance, if you're a heavy user of broadband because you're transporting video, full motion video or music or peer-to-peer services, you may actually be willing to pay more so that the quality of those transmissions in terms of the quality of the video and the sound is ensured. Just in the same way that many times commercial customers are willing to pay more for a higher standard of service. Very often the net neutrality argument boils down to providers who want to ride on those networks not wanting to prevent us from having the ability to tier the services based on demand or quality of service and those kinds of things.
Okay, well, maybe we'll talk about that more now. You got about 20 seconds. Tell people what they should tell their legislators about AB 2987 from your point of view.
From our point of view, there's 2 points. First of all, let's treat light services alike from the day that any change is instituted. Secondly, let's make sure that no communities are left behind by the new technology.
Thanks very much for talking to us today on California Politics Today.
Thank you.